What is up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Thanks for joining me today on today's podcast episode. I bring a fascinating guest on today. He recently passed his PE exam in construction, and he's 58 years old. I mean, this is an awesome story. His name is Jimmy Draughty, and he comes on to share his own experience of why he wanted to pursue his PE much later in life. Most people want this in their 20s, and he got it at 58. So a huge congratulations to Jimmy. So proud of what he's done. He was a student of our course and was able to get through this exam, get through the finish line. And he has a lot of tips and tricks and kind of just general experience that I wanted to share with you. And his background is fascinating. I mean, he worked for his own company, being a general contractor. He's worked on mega projects, everything from power plants to huge projects with bridges and transmission lines. And he's working mainly as a project manager, but does all kinds of fascinating work with these mega projects. And he just wanted to get this PE license. He thought it would be a great boost to his career, even at this stage in his life. So it's a fascinating story, and I think one that you're going to want to listen to. If you need help on your own journey to pass your PE exam, you want to check us out at civilengineeringacademy.com. We have exams and courses there you can go find, and we're there to help you. We want to support you on this journey. It's a big deal to get this, and it's a huge weight off your shoulders once you can get it done. So we'll provide the structure and everything you need to get over the finish line, just like Jimmy did. So good stuff there. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to my interview with Jimmy Daughtry. It's coming up right after this. See you in a minute. All right, Jimmy, we're rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. Appreciate you doing this with me.
Sure.
Well, I'm excited for you. You just passed the PE exam.
I did.
That's so awesome. And it's a big deal because you're taking it a little bit later in life. Most people try to knock it out, but we'll kind of get there. I always like to start these out, though, just kind of hearing your own remarks about what led you to this world of civil engineering. What have you been doing for your career? Why take the PE now?
Well, so to start with, I grew up in a really small town. And, of course, with that, not venturing out too far younger in life, my imagination of opportunity was pretty narrow at the time, but I was in construction work, so took an interest in that. Decided I wanted to get into construction management initially. Signed up for that, got into it, and then realized I wanted to know more about the engineering design side of it. I ended up doing a bachelor's in both, so I studied both curriculums. Wanting to be a general contractor, I even did a minor in business. Like, okay, I got to know how to do that as well, but. So once I got into it, my eyes just, is just open to a tremendous opportunity that's out there. Right. And, of course, the older you get and the more you do, you just learn more and more about so many opportunities and, available worldwide. I've now, since graduating, I was fortunate to kind of jump in right off the bat, kind of in sort of mega projects. So I started out working on power projects, large pharmaceutical plant, but then power projects, and went on an international assignment. So you're talking about, wow, just blowing a small town guy's, just blowing my mind on opportunity. But I went down to Chile, South America a couple of years to build a power plant there. Absolutely loved that experience. But I still had my mind on being a general contractor, and I came back. I hired only a large commercial contracting company, worked as a project manager with them for a couple of years, and then I started my own business. Was doing well up to the 2008 recession, and that pretty well took me out. I went back hired back in to again managing sort of these mega projects and traveling around. I went up to Canada, did a couple of projects, and came back down. I was from North Carolina, came back down to the Carolinas for a little while after that until my company sent me over to California. And since then got into like heavy civil infrastructure projects, and just been a great experience. And wow, just the opportunity to travel and see the world while doing some of these fantastic projects has been an awesome experience.
Sounds really neat. I'm in the utility world myself, so I kind of get what you're talking about. So has it mainly been like the power plants, these kind of projects, or like anything utility related?
Oh, well, gosh. So, I
Substation?
mean, so while I've done power plants, did a 300-mile transmission line,
Oh yeah.
but I mean, that actually has been a little further back. So more recently, I've been into various projects, especially with the highway transmission line. Sorry, the highways and bridges. Of course, you build bridges, you have these huge foundations, right? Cast and drilled holes, they're called in California. And you just, now, you're punching through all these utilities. Well, you're not, because you have to do all of this subsurface investigations and design how to modify every type of utility out there, right? Anything that's in the way of these foundations. So you have to go in and dig up a lot of the roadways and right of ways and have all this stuff moved in preparation in advance of these huge foundations going in. Then another project actually was Google Fiber. So that again is a
Oh yeah.
type of utility where you're just running miles and miles of Google Fiber or fiber through a lot of conduits, which are underground, and then you come up above ground, you go across bridges, you go over power lines, and then when you learn about the limitations of the spacing limitations between all the different utilities, the competition for all the companies that want to cross a power line and all that, and that's pretty wild. It's pretty cool stuff.
That's exactly right. So on most of these, are you kind of like project managing it, or what's kind of been your role in these?
Yeah, at this stage of my life, I'm more into project managing now, and I've done a lot of as well. I've done a bit of project controls, so dealing with cost, budget, schedule planning, risk analysis, and a bit of into commercial contract administration side of it as well. Yeah.
Well, sounds like you got a ton of experience. So let's fast forward. You're 58. What motivated you to get the PE done at this stage of your life?
Very simple. I've just thoroughly enjoyed, working on these complex mega projects. I mean, it's the whole reason civil engineering exists like it does, to the depth that it goes in all the different disciplines. But I got to a point to where it's like I realized earlier in my career that having a PE license is a credential that would certainly open the door of opportunities. However, with the desire to be a general contractor initially, I narrow-mindedly figured that I could get by without the PE license. I got a broker's license, a general contractor's license, and a loan officer's license, along with a PMP certification. And I'm thinking, that's plenty. But as I go into these mega projects, and I realize there's a lot of really bright people in the industry that have a lot of credentials that I have, along with a PE, and it narrows my opportunity. I realized that, and I'm like, you know what? I mean, I've resisted this because I know I've gone decades and forgotten tons of the, what I learned back in, 3 decades ago in college. So, I resisted doing it up until a point to where I'm like, you know what? I still have time to go in my career, and I want to be able to, at this point in life, I want to be able to be a little more choosy on the opportunities, and the PE license was certainly a means to do that. Not to mention that, it is kind of the pinnacle of your career, going through such a difficult curriculum to start with,
Right.
to come out with a license attesting that you're a professional in the knowledge of that curriculum.
Well, I couldn't be more proud of you. I think it's just a monumental achievement to do that at this stage of your life, and
Thank you.
I applaud you. I think it's awesome. So, I'm curious, because there are other people in your shoes that wanna get this, and I'm curious what challenges you faced trying to earn your PE at this stage in your life.
Whew. Well, number one is time. I mean, time is our most valuable commodity. I mean, when you get my age at 58, it just goes faster every day, every year. You realize it's very limited. I love my family. am involved in things outside of work, frankly, that are really, more meaningful in ways than the career itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so to balance your family, I have strong faith beliefs that I enjoy involving in the community, and so just juggling, the involvement with family and friends, as well as your career. It's difficult. I mean, it's really challenging. Number one, to work in a career where you're overseeing mega projects that are very complex. There's just so much to oversee. Could be very daunting in and of itself. And so then to try to take on something like getting a PE license, at that point in your career, time was the number one constraint that caused me to frankly resist it for a long time.
Yeah.
And then obviously going a long time without, again, being on top of all, keep the depth knowledge, the breadth of knowledge in so many different disciplines that I had not really involved extensively in, more on a high level.
Right. So it sounds like you had good support, though. It sounds like your family was supportive of getting this. Yeah. Okay. And then, between everything that you mentioned, you had to balance all of that. So what did that look like in your life? Where did you find time to study? What was your schedule like?
Well, I will say that a really valuable tool that you provided, thankfully, is the outline of the study schedule, right? So being in project management, the first thing we do on a project, a major project, is we create a schedule that is a baseline of how we're going to progress through any huge endeavor, right?
Yeah.
And then we use that to gauge our progress. Okay, am I on track? Am I gonna get this done by the time I told my wife I would that we could eventually go on vacation again and do things like that. And so, and then it tells you sometimes, okay, I'm a little bit behind. I've got to, I got to carve out some time and dedicate a little more to catch up and stay on track. So that was a very valuable tool, that certainly helped me get through this.
Good. Yeah, we try to provide a homework planner that kind of outlines a weekly schedule that goes along with homework and the lecture videos
Yeah.
to try to get you exposure to practicing problems and making sure it kind of falls in line with, the material and specifications that you need to follow. So I'm glad you like that. I'm curious,
Invaluable. It was invaluable. Yeah.
how did you end up finding us? How did you find Civil Engineering Academy in the first?
I'll tell you what, really, I did some word searches. I mean, being my age, I've been through license and certifications,
Yeah.
and so I just dug in. I did a little research on, the options and what's available out there to get through this. And I just really liked the program. I liked the fact that it was very focused on civil engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at the program and what it had to offer, I was just convinced that was the way to go. And, at my age, at 58, working overtime on mega projects, and in fact, on a very challenging mega project that frankly was fairly stressful in and of itself, but to realize that I'm getting ready to take on something very complicated along with that. I did my research and just researching this program, it was evident because, I got through the program in 4 months.
Awesome.
And it meant that I had to follow a very rigid study schedule, like you provided, homework schedule. I stuck to it. I did it. And thank you. I was able to accomplish it. I think that in itself tells me that I made a wise decision on using the program.
That's great. Was there anything in the course that stood out that felt like, hey, this helped me more than something else did?
Yeah, it is because, I was challenged with trying to decide because, I mean, the program tells you kind of what the percentage of of the, each discipline was going to be on the exam. And I'm sitting there, struggling with the idea, okay, well, I need to put more study time into these areas that are higher percentages. I dug into the low hanging fruit, probably, what I had more experience in initially. And really, frankly, what I found myself doing later in the program was having a little more of a challenge with some of the disciplines that I did not, function in as much, namely traffic engineering, wastewater.
Mhm.
And so I found myself really having to jump into those, and so that the videos and the practice problems were invaluable. I mean, they helped me get through that in a relatively short period of time, and again, pass the exam. So the results were evident of the
That's
value of the
great.
program.
Could you remind the audience what exam did you end up taking? Because it sounds like
Oh,
you're PMing all this stuff. How did you choose the exam you did? Why did you choose that one?
yeah. So I did like probably what most other people do, and I've talked to a lot of people that obviously have had their PE license over the years, and it's that debate over, well, do I examine in the area that I have more experience in, or do I look at the pass rates and choose a different, discipline? And I just decided that, I looked at construction engineering. That's really where I had probably a little stronger background. And, after I saw the pass rate was lower, I scratched my head a little bit, but I'm like, you know what? I mean, that's probably where, frankly, that's kind of the area where I see mega projects struggling a little more in is certain aspects of construction engineering. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take that one. I'm going to go with it. And I want to be able to pick up. I want to learn all that I can. There's strengths and weaknesses in every project, and my strength is probably a little more stronger of a construction engineering background. I just decided to, sort of monopolize on that, and make sure I knew all I needed to know. When I go into a project managing it, then I know to reach out to other subject matter experts in their disciplines. But in the end, it was about, where I felt like that I would add more value um, in my career going
That's a
forward.
fascinating take. So you saw pass rates. Typically, water resources is the highest. You saw construction, which you felt drawn to as per your background and work history, and that's the one you ended up going with, which is great. Was there any surprises on the exam that you felt like came out of nowhere that you could maybe give some advice to others?
Absolutely. The one discipline that I really left to last and prepared the least, and frankly, intentionally, because I'm kind of weighing out the percentages, and I'm like, okay, I feel real strong about all these areas, and I'm coming down to test time, and I'm ready to go ahead and take the test. So wastewater, was the last one that I dug into. Um, the ironic thing is that it turns out that that was a much higher percentage of my exam than the other disciplines other than construction engineering itself. I mean, by far. What else was strange about the exam for me was I went into the morning portion of the exam thinking that that was going to be more of the breadth part, if you will, covering all the various disciplines. So I went into the morning and I started the exam and I'm rocking through it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, I'm going to finish ahead of time. And when the morning session ended, I called my wife and I said, wow, honey, I said, I've passed this thing with flying colors. So then I go back into the afternoon exam, and the majority of it was wastewater. And I struggled through some of that exam, but there again, I learned enough from the program. Its focus was on, how to prepare, especially, and how to look up information you need to know, right? What sources to go to. And that part of the study and the program was again invaluable to enabling me to pass something when it even was more heavily weighted on a discipline that I was least prepared in.
That's amazing. So did you what was that conversation like after the exam with your wife?
After the exam, I'm like, I'm not, I'm not quite as confident as I was. I'm hopeful. I'm certainly not holding my breath, but anyway, it
Absolutely.
all when I got the results, I was ecstatic and pleased.
So, a lot of people are intimidated by the amount of codes and standards that are required for construction.
Mm.
And so you took construction, and at this stage of your life, did you feel like there was anything on the exam that was very coded, intense, that you had to look up stuff a lot? What advice would you give to somebody that's worried about the amount of codes and standards, and how would they best prepare for the exam?
Well, I will tell you that, I mean, if you're worried about codes and standards, I think probably I want to say the two that you you should look into heavily as far as what you're going to have to deal with, and that is probably structures and construction engineering. There was a lot of codes in that. Of course, there was quite a bit, too, in geotechnical. I just kind of researched, and I even looked back on how the engineering exams have evolved over time and changed, right? And geotechnical requires more codes than it references than it used to.
A lot, yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, you have to dedicate in that study. I mean, you got to dedicate a lot of time to just flat out. I would say a lot of memorization too, because I mean, yes, it's one thing to be able to know where to go in to find some of the resources, but to me, it was a balance of memorizing where to find them, but as much as possible, memorizing some too, because you don't want to spend too much time flipping around and trying to find codes
Yeah.
when there's some that maybe are simpler to just go ahead and take the memory and just brush through those so you can have more time in the more difficult problems.
And that just comes naturally. I mean, in the course, we talk about this a lot, but practicing problems is really where your head should be. And the more you do that, the more exposure you get to looking up codes and standards. And yeah, you just start naturally memorizing stuff just because you're
Absolutely.
opening the books, you're solving the problems. So that's great advice. What about practice exams? How did you tackle those? I know the course provided some, but what advice would you give for people trying to take practice exams?
Yeah. So personally for me, I did break them down initially by discipline. And I really just focused on each one, trying to go through enough problems, just to make sure that, like you said, I mean, you have the steps of every problem that you have to remember the steps that you've got to go through. You got to remember the formulas in each step. You got to remember where to reference and go to if you have codes you need to look up if you haven't memorized them. So, I mean, I can't overemphasize the value of practice exams in really cementing the steps and formulas and codes and references that you have to progress through these different problems. And I mean, there's so many. You're talking about 5 different disciplines and practice problems in all 5. Frankly, I was ecstatic when I passed the first time, just because in a 4-month period of time, there was just so many problems. I mean, I will say that I'm thankful for my wife.
Mhm.
Uh,
Supporting you.
her willingness for me to get through this, because she was ready for me to be through it and get more back to a little more normalization in life.
It is a sacrifice for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it makes me wonder, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, but if you hadn't taken the Civil Engineering Academy course, do you think your preparation and the results would have been different?
Yes, much different. I mean, again, it's just like, working on, these mega projects, complex projects. I mean, you can't go into those without a tried and true structure approach. I mean, you never go into a project and try to just create, the processes, tools, and techniques from scratch. You never do that. You're definitely set up for failure in trying to do that. You always take a tried true approach and you apply that. And, all of us have different styles. Some of us are left brain, right brain. I am one of those right brain engineers, probably,
I'm probably that way too.
fewer of us. So my study techniques are a little different than others. My approach is a little different, but I always have to start with a structured approach that's tried and true. And so absolutely, it would have been totally different. It would have taken me a lot longer. And, there's a great chance that it would have not only taken me longer, but I may not have passed even with, having to spend, longer time span of preparing because, the other balance to that is that, when you do take a long time to study, I mean, parts of what you studied initially, you forget those. You got to go back and learn those. So there is a little bit of a balance in, that structured approach of getting through it and, remembering it because none of us are going to remember 100% of what we got right on the exam. There's many studies in the industry that say what percentage of, things that we learn that we forget over time. We're going to forget some of those things. So having that right study structure and approach and, the study plan, the homework plan, again, it's invaluable. Now, it would have been totally different if I had not had all those tools in place.
That's good to hear. I mean, we try to give you just what you need, not more, not less. We're trying to give you just the tools you need to get this thing done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We know people's times are, their time is valuable, as you said. It's the most important asset in your life. So we want to make sure we're giving you everything you need to pass this and not more. So that's the goal.
I believe it. Thank you.
So to someone that may be saying to themselves, it's too late for me to take the PE, what would you say to them?
Goodness. I mean, I'm 58. I don't know. I mean, I just say that, if it's worth it, then you dedicate the time, you take a structured approach and do it. I would say that at my age, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of dedication. And again, starting off with a program, don't start off. I mean, yeah, I definitely wouldn't suggest just taking off and trying to pick up books that you studied, from college or whatever. Certainly have a structured program. And no, I mean, I highly encourage anyone, everyone, if I can do it, you can do it.
That's awesome. Well, there's a couple more questions I have just as we kind of wrap this up. Could you take me through the day you got your results? Walk me through that day.
Well, so I've set up, most of my devices, like my cell phone, my wife's cell phone. We have a shared Apple account, iCloud, and I have it where she has access to all of my email accounts, my voice messages, everything. She sees everything that comes in, and in fact, I started that back when I was a general contractor because it was just too much to keep up with. And she tried to help me keep up with everything. So I'm busy doing whatever I'm doing. And my wife says, you got an email. From NCES. And I'm like, seriously? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt my heart flutter, and I run over and grab my phone and I open it up and I log into NCES. And sure enough, the results was passing, and wow, what an ecstatic moment.
Well, that's so great. It's such a weight lifted off your shoulders when you get this thing done. You are a great example to many others that are out there that want to do this or maybe on the fence of doing it. And I just love the advice that if you can do it, they can do it too. Is there any last second tips you would share with anybody about taking the construction PE exam?
None other than don't doubt yourself. that this is a valuable credential in our career. It certainly pays off. It does. Like, even though I'm 58, I've been through a lot of mega projects. I've worked with all disciplines in planning and managing, setting up, the whole PMP thing of, you initiate a project, you plan it, you execute it, control it, monitor, close it out, and all that good stuff. So I've done, kind of A to Z on large projects, initiating feasibility studies right on through close out of the project. And so I've worked with all disciplines on these projects. And even though I've done that for years, the knowledge gained through the study is tremendous. I mean, I just know that I can go into more meetings with a much greater confidence in comprehending some of the technical aspects of, the project delivery. And I can help make decisions, more quickly, informed decisions more quickly. So really, that's just a tremendous benefit to anyone's career. So no, from that vantage point, I just, highly encourage everyone, to take this on. And even if you don't pass the first time, I still think the credential is valuable enough that, you've learned so much, and you probably you've got, not as far to go on a second round, but certainly, give it a chance and go for it.
Keep going. Well, It's awesome. Your work's going to want you licensed in all 50 states now. So
I'm licensed in 3 states so far, applied in 2 more. California, you have to, you have a 5 to 6 month waiting to get approval to take a seismic and surveying exam before you're licensed. So I'm on that waiting list. And so I still need to do some preparation for that. But yeah, on the way.
We have some material coming out very soon on that one, by the way.
Good.
Seismic and survey coming out soon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm just excited for you. Thanks for sharing your experience. Thanks for sharing your tips. We're glad that you were a student of our course and you found success doing it. We are looking forward to spread the word more as we are getting very close to launching the last few courses as we update the specs that they made big changes to back in April 24. So all of that's coming out very soon. But we're just excited that you got this one done. And thanks for jumping on and sharing all of your tips with us.
You're welcome. And I thank you for helping advance my career. And big thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.